I got this canvas painting for free at my local reuse center. They sell old art and even unused art supplies, but I found this used canvas at the free section. Let's prime it and paint over it. Hello! This painting has some thicker paint layers, especially on the characters' eyes, hands and wings, so I'll sand those down with fine sandpaper. The grit size is 120. You don't have to use this exact one, but the higher the grit size, the finer the sandpaper. And you should wear a mask while sanding, because the paint particles coming off the painting can be harmful. Then I'm wiping the dust off the canvas with a damp microfiber cloth. I'm gonna go out on a limb and assume this painting was done with acrylics and prime it with acrylic gesso. Although I can't be sure, I didn't test it in any way. But I can at least see that this painting was not varnished. I'm using white acrylic gesso for priming the canvas, and the reason I have the kitchen scale here is I'm gonna weigh how much gesso I used, and then at the end of the video I can calculate how much it costs to reuse an old canvas like this compared to buying a new canvas. I'm using a large flat brush to paint on the gesso with straight vertical strokes to try to make an even layer. I dip the brush in water just a little bit to make the gesso easier to spread, but I want good coverage, so I'm not diluting it too much with water. Remember to cover up the sides as well. I'm gonna tint the white gesso grey with black acrylic paint to make it cover up the old painting with fewer layers, since the darker painting is more difficult to cover up with white. And if you want a certain solid color for the background, this is a good way to do it. I could have mixed in the black in the first layer, but honestly I wanted white gesso for the thumbnail, so that's why I didn't. If I had mixed in the black in the beginning, I maybe could have gotten away with using just one gesso layer though. The instructions say you can mix in 10% of acrylic paint for tinting, but I saw that afterwards, so maybe I put a little bit more than 10%. And this time I'm doing horizontal lines. Could you cover up the old painting with just acrylic paint and not use gesso? In this case, I think yes, but gesso has better coverage than the acrylic paints I have, so this was faster than just using acrylics. The coverage on the second layer is very good. Unfortunately, I mixed a bit too much paint and I have some left over. The fumes from the acrylic paints can be toxic, so remember to ventilate. After letting the paint dry for a few hours, I sketched on the canvas with a white watercolor pencil, so it shows up on the grey surface. The instructions say the drying time is 24 hours though. I painted with Crelando acrylic paints. It's a set that comes with the 3 primary colors and white and black. I didn't make this a primary color challenge on purpose, but I just didn't reach out to any other paints for some reason. But I messed up. You saw me do some sanding in the beginning, but I didn't do enough. You can still see the hand and wings through my painting. Another thing I messed up was I looked at some photos of sky reflecting to water and noticed the reflection on the water is usually darker than the sky, whereas I made them look the same. So the next day, to fix both of these things, I sanded some of the hand and then painted over the sky reflection in the water. Did it help? Honestly, no. So if there's texture on the painting, do the sanding well in the beginning. If you don't have sandpaper, you could even try scraping off the thick parts with a knife. I'm gonna cover up those areas more later on though, so that it's not as noticeable in the finished painting. So, how much gesso did it take to cover up this 30 by 30 centimeter canvas? By the way, I'll talk in
grams, liters and euros, but I'll put the pounds, gallons and dollars on the video so you can see them. This would just get very confusing otherwise.
I weighed 26 grams of gesso. I had 4 grams left over, but some of that was the black paint. Let's just say I used 25 grams of gesso. But then I noticed that the gesso bottle says 473 milliliters and nothing about weight. Okay, luckily Amazon and some other online stores do list the weight and it's 450 grams. And the current price I found is 12 euros. I am skeptical about the weight. I've used this gesso on multiple paintings, mostly on cardboard. I've used it on craft projects, on plastic surfaces. I weighed the bottle and it's at 435 grams right now. Then I measured with a stick how much gesso I've used and the bottle seems to be about half full. So the original weight of 450 grams sounds suspicious to me, but I guess we'll just assume that the plastic bottle weighs a lot on its own. So let's talk about the price. I've been asked, isn't it more expensive to buy a 12 euro bottle of gesso than pay a couple of euros for a new canvas? Well, no. When you go grocery shopping, do you look at the price per item or the price per kilogram or liter? If you are deciding between a 1 liter milk that costs 75 cents or a 1.5 liter milk that costs 1 euro and you want the cheaper option, which one is it? Okay, maybe the 1 liter milk is more convenient to use and you'd rather buy that one than the bigger one with the lower price. Or maybe you only need 1 liter, so it makes sense to buy the smaller one. But the principle is the same. 150 grams of gesso costs 12 euros. So the 25 grams to prime this 30 by 30 centimeter canvas costs 67 cents. A new pre-primed canvas of the same size costs 2 euros 50 cents. So you save about 70% by reusing the old canvas. With these measurements, you could prime 18 canvases of this size using the same gesso bottle for 12 euros, whereas the 18 new canvases would cost 45 euros. And these are just the prices I found. There are different sizes and prices of gesso. If you buy a bigger one, it might be cheaper in proportion to the size. And you could find a cheaper canvas too. If you're just planning to make one acrylic painting or you're starting out with painting and not sure whether you'll do more of them, then don't buy a big gesso you might not use. Just buy a new canvas. But why would you want to go through the trouble of priming a used canvas? This method lets you recycle old paintings that don't have any purpose anymore, or paint on other free materials that would go to waste otherwise. To paint on natural materials or customize different items. If you just want painting to be convenient and don't want to use the time on priming recycled materials, then by all means buy ready-made canvases. But if you're interested in using recycled or natural materials for painting, check out this video next. See you there!